in a crowd like this to talk about getting work done, right? I think usually last time we get together in a group like this, we have to fuss about something, right? We're not here to fuss today, but I want to thank Mike personally for taking care of putting this together today and taking really a few months ago to start putting things in place to making today happen, and everybody for presenting that you're going to see. Folks, you are being part of history today. Excuse me, that's a little tight. This is a historic day for us to come together and talk about the future of Georgia. And I'm going to suggest to you, and we have, I know, at least one state representative in the House in the back, I'm going to suggest to you that what happened with HB 170, the Transportation Funding Act of 2015, is the single most important infrastructure vote this legislature has ever taken up, that passed and the governor approved, since the creation of the excise tax to begin with. That's how big HB 170, or TFA 2015 as we call it, is. And you're going to begin today to see the importance and see the reality of the legislature doing a very hard thing of passing increased transportation funding for Georgia in the economy that we still live in. So today I hope gives you a lot of insight about what's coming, what the future and how great the future is, and what it's going to mean for you individually as contractors, and what it means for you to grow your existing companies. Hopefully there's new companies that grow out of this, and to see how everybody is going to benefit from the hard work of our legislature, from suppliers, material suppliers, vendors, you name it. You guys understand what the multiplier is for a dollar invested in transportation. You know how it trickles down and it affects so many other people. So before we jump in, though, we have to acknowledge the reality of where we are on a lot of initiatives. So I want to take just a moment to bring you up to speed on the federal transportation front. And so that's a good news, bad news story. So let me start with the bad news, because we don't have much room for bad news today. It looks like we're maybe headed for another month's extension into December. As you know right now, transportation funding federally is only funded through November 20th. Okay, so just a couple more weeks before something has to happen federally. What that has meant for us, as you all know, and the bad news is there's no December letting at the moment. It depends on what happens. If it's extended into December, as suggested and some of the indicators are now, that means that we could have a January letting, but it would be a limited January letting, okay? You have to understand that those federal dollars first have to go to pay our debt service and take care of some other things before we can turn those into lettings. So that's the bad news. The very, very good news was last week the House voted to pass basically a 6-year funding bill for transportation, and that was very, very big news. Not only how big that was, they actually have done something the Senate hadn't done. It was basically to find funding for all 6 years. So that's very good. That's what we desire. We desire long-term, 6-year, funded, at least level and growing year over year transportation bill, so that HB 170 dollars can make Georgia grow and do even more, because they have to be on top of our level federal program, or at least a level federal program. So that's very encouraging. I have to tell you that Georgia is very fortunate this year, because we have Congressman Rob Woodall, who served on the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. And if you know Rob, and if you know of him, and even if you don't, I would encourage you to reach out to him and his staff and tell them thanks for the hard work they did. Where's Josh Waller? Josh Waller right here worked very close with his staff throughout the Transportation Committee work, and also when it got into the full House. There were a lot of amendments. Josh, 150 to 200 amendments was brought forth. I can tell you Josh was scrubbing all those, providing information back to staff, and David where'd David go? David Mullerin. You left. Oh, there you are. Thought you left. David and your resources and help too from GHCA, we appreciate everybody's efforts to stay on this federal piece. Now, Now we have to encourage them, the House and the Senate, to get to a conference committee and get through sort of the sausage making that has to happen so that we can go forward and not have any more hiccups, folks. We cannot have any more hiccups in federal transportation funding. I understand the reality that is to you, the real impacts that has on you and your employees and all the vendors and suppliers that it takes to deliver transportation. Another good news note is Congressman Woodall made it on the conference committee. So Georgia has a seat at the table on the conference committee. That is big, folks. We have not had that in a long, long time at the federal level. So that's enough about the federal. As Mike said, last week our State Transportation Board approved our budget submission of FY16 and FY17, amended 16 and 17, that will now go to the legislature, to the governor, over to Office of Planning and Budget, and then to the legislature to be taken up next legislative session. So let me talk about amended 16. So we're operating in fiscal year 16 right now. It goes through June of next year. So we're in the meat, if you will, almost the middle of fiscal year 16. Our budget, our base budget for state dollars was $1.003 billion was what we were based on. So based on the projections from HB 170, the revenues that are being collected today, that adjusted number is amending in $757 million additional dollars. You got it? An additional 757 for a total of $1.76 billion in this year. That's, folks, that's incredible. That is an incredible. Usually in an amended year, we may amend in a couple $100,000, maybe $1 million or $2 million. So I can tell you the governor and the folks at Planning and Budget wanted to make sure that these dollars got advanced this year, into this year, so that you can do work this fiscal year. That's huge. Our State Transportation Board also approved the FY17 budget, which goes into effect July 1, at $1.823 billion. 1.82. Just remember, our base budget has been about $1 billion. Okay? So that is a direct outcome of HB 170, as we knew that it would generate close to $1 billion. And folks, I'll tell you, I think these numbers are a little conservative. We only have 1/4 of collections to understand the revenues that's coming in based on these adjustments to the excise tax, to the fees, the heavy vehicle fees, the tax exemptions going away for electric vehicles, etc. So budget is usually conservative, and that's a good thing. We want our Planning and Budget Office to be conservative to keep Georgia in good financial shape. So Meg, when she gets in her presentation, Meg will go into a little bit of the breakout of those budget numbers. Mike talked to them a little bit. She's going to go into detail and give you even more so you can really see where the work's coming and where it's going to go to. Now, again, I'm telling you, where we are today this is what we're going to advance as quickly as we can to get the work out there on the street, to make the investment and make the outcomes for our citizens of Georgia. And a lot of things are going to be a little different, and we're going to ask you to do some things different. One, as Mike alluded to, and Dale Brantley, our state maintenance engineer, is going to go over, is contracting for routine maintenance activities, which we traditionally have only done in a very, very limited role, such as mowing. But we're going to have to do that to take care of our conditions of our roadways. Again, to reaffirm the work of the Joint Study Committee of the House and Senate Transportation Committee did last fall, to show that we have to take care of our roads. We've done a lot of work internally. I want to thank all the staff, and I know I've got several district engineers here. I asked our district engineers to stand up. I know Chad Hartley, Karan Ivory, Brent Cook, Michael Presley. I think that's Jimmy Smith standing behind Michael Presley. Their district folks have been working very hard. They've been working very hard to understand how we're going to advance projects, especially when it comes to the maintenance side of the house, the contracting for maintenance work. They've got a lot more work to do. They're going to hear how much more they have to do today. And it's a fantastic opportunity. We have a lot to do. But just remember that even what we're going to show you today, I think can be even more robust as we go forward, because we have to develop plans. You still have to do environmental work. even with state dollars, you have to do some environmental work. We have to buy right-of-way to get those projects out on the street so you can get them built. So I'm telling you, what we're doing today is giving you the base, sort of the bottom line, if you will, of what we know that can come almost immediately. It's exciting times, no doubt. But with exciting times, and when you're a little bit in uncharted waters, there's always a little bit of fear in your stomach, right? Some of my fears are cost escalation, materials escalation. Folks, I think we're seeing that now. You guys know what that is. But we've got to show that we're good stewards of taxpayers' dollars. I'm looking for good competitive bids, which we live in that environment now, but we need to make sure we continue that environment. We have to show transparency to the public for this hard work that the legislature did, that they're getting a good return on investment, and that Georgia DOT and you as our partners are collectively administering these dollars appropriately and give them a good return on investment. So there's a lot of things that are coming in front of us very fast, and it looks like the federal piece is going to get worked out. Just give it a month or two. I think even probably just in 2 months, the federal piece will be behind us. That gives us good projection to go forward, gives us that sustainability. And at the end of the day, we're looking to you to deliver. We're going to do that in partnership. David, we have a fantastic working relationship with GHCA and everybody else that's in this room. We're going to continue that partnership because we got to be shoulder to shoulder to deliver. It's on us to deliver and to show Georgians what we can do. Not only that,